wanted to live an even more severe lifestyle. So they founded a splinter, not a splinter, but another order called the Cistercians. And they went out into the woods, and they're the ones that became silent, and they didn't even want to talk. But they still kept to the rule of St. Benedict and had their own businesses to support themselves. In the 19th century, the monastery of La Trappe in France, the Cistercian monastery there, wanted to get back to their rugged roots, so they reformed the order and got more rigorous and in their dedication to it. And that reform was so incredibly successful that it spread throughout the world, and that's why most of the monks are now called Trappist monks, even though technically they're Cistercian monks.
Oh, okay.
The answer to your first question
first part.
I didn't,
now I'm even more curious how you ended up there.
This is amazing.
So the other answer to your first question is I didn't actually spend 17 years. Back in 1996, I was coaching some college students on local campuses as part of my pro bono work on. I did it on a volunteer basis for many years, on coaching them on the big questions of life. What is a life worth living? And one of them ended up going to this Trappist monastery for a summer. I didn't even know he was going to do it, but he called me up and he said, I'm spending a summer as what's called a monastic guest, which meant that he was actually wearing a little gray habit that they give him, and he lived with the monks and worked with them, got up at 3 a.m. with them, and was basically living as a part-time monk. And I ended up being so impressed by him and what he was saying that I went down there that weekend as a retreatant. All Trappist monasteries have a tradition of what's called hospitality, which means that they invite retreatants to come in, and they have retreat houses for them. So I did that for several weeks, and then over Christmas I went down myself as a monastic guest, and I've been returning ever since for the last 17 years as a monastic guest, sometimes I've spent as much as 4 months there at a time. But I've never lived there full time. I am not a monk.
Okay.
But they managed to really accept you and allow you to be there, which is pretty amazing.
It's an amazing program. I'm not certain. The monastery that I go to is called Metkin Abbey. It is right in the suburb. It's almost in the suburbs of Charleston, South Carolina. It's about 5,000 acres. The land was originally given to the monks by Henry and Claire Booth Luce. And Henry Luce, of course, is the man who started Time Inc., Time Magazine and Sports Illustrated. And that was in 1949. And they've been, and so they have this whole, I couldn't help but notice as a businessman myself, I worked with MTV, for example, when it started out. I was a business executive in corporate America before becoming an entrepreneur. So I couldn't help but notice that they were running all these incredible businesses, and they were doing it working 4 hours a day in silence, and the average age of the monks these days is 70. So how do these 70-year-old men, there's only about 20 of them, working 4 hours a day, mostly in silence, get 10,000 times more done and more successful than I was getting done working 100-hour weeks?
Wow.
And that's what led to my starting to write about them, and then eventually this book, Business Secrets of the Trappist Monks.
Let's talk about a little bit, and back up just a little bit to the portion of the discussion about intent, where you talk about helping the old lady across the street with the intent of having some good fortune shined upon you. There's a conundrum that I see here, or I don't know if you call it a catch-22. If you say, wow, this is going to help me out with my business, so therefore I'm going to do this, it almost seems like, well, then it won't do it. and yet you want to buy the book and you want to say, well, I want to be successful in business and I want to help my fellow man, but how am I going to put the Krugerrand in the bell ringer's kettle on Christmas in the Christmas season, and not think this might help me out somehow? How am I going to do that?
Wow, I'll tell you what, man. Again, I'm just extremely impressed, David. Very, very, very good question. And I deal, in my book, Business Secrets of the Trappist Monks, I get into that pretty extensively. The journey from selfishness to selflessness is what I call the transformational journey. And I even use the whole model of Joseph Campbell and his hero's journey, his book, The Hero with 1,000 Faces. And the most important thing, I say it right in the preface, you have to start out, sincerity is so important, or at least a sincere desire to be more sincere.
Oh, I like that, yeah.
So yes, we're all going to, we're human beings. And you can't set up a paradox where, kind of the old joke, if you can pick up this piece of paper off the ground without thinking about the color green, I'll give you $1 million. There's no way that anybody can do that. But the more you start working at it, and what happens as you start working, even if you just start out and you can't help yourself that you're thinking you're going to win the lottery because you helped the little old lady across the street, the more you work at it, and the more you start taking more and more of your pleasure and your out of the joy becomes in the giving in itself. And then you suddenly find yourself not thinking so much about what it's going to do for you, and then suddenly this magic that I'm talking about kicks in.
Wow.
So it's a process. It's a process. It's like learning how to read and write. In the beginning, it's very, very difficult, and later on, it becomes a joy.
And does practice make perfect?
Practice makes perfect, and perfect practice makes even more perfect.
And then on the other hand, you've got the person that's afraid that somebody's going to get one up on them. It's just like driving down the road, and then this guy is behind you, so impatient, and then he zooms past you to get ahead of you, and then he's stopped by the red light. I mean, how do you help people like that become givers and not just takers?
Well, in that particular case, I get out of my car, beat him to within an inch of his life.
You are not a monk.
Unless he's bigger than I am.
Yeah.
There's not much I'm going to be able to do with a stranger like that. But believe it or not, the reason why I wrote my book, and the reason why I'm on the air today, and the reason why I write for Forbes.com on leadership issues, is that I'm trying, I think there's two stages to it. First of all, I've got to convince people intellectually that they only think selfishness is the secret to happiness and peace and all the other things we want in life, and that selflessness is really what you want, whether you realize it or not. And secondly, there's an old saying from Confucius, I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, I do and I understand. Until you have enough faith, which there's a whole chapter in Business Secrets of the Trappist Monks on faith, but what I call faithfulness, which means being able to act on faith, not necessarily what you believe in. And unless you're willing to have enough faith to give this a real try, you'll never discover the things that I'm talking about. And paradoxically, this is not as strange to business as most people think when they first hear it. I came up through sales, for example, and every great salesman knows that the more he forgets about himself, his product, his quota, his commissions, and fanatically focuses on selflessly serving his customer needs, the commissions take care of themselves.
I do think so, too. And, in selling advertisements for radio, it's clear to me that it's not going to be the best vehicle for everybody. I think sometimes radio works for some businesses and maybe not for others. It's really easy to see that. And you're right. The most successful salespeople in this business, of which, by the way, Robin and I are not, but it is the ones who basically say exactly the same thing. You mentioned the joy of giving earlier. I want to tell you something that Robin and I kind of stumbled upon. We, in addition to doing radio, we do music. And years ago, we were doing a children's act, and basically we were trying, putting the feelers out, see if anybody wanted to hire us to do some music. Nobody was hiring us. Nobody at all. So then I said, I want to do it anyway. I don't really care about the money so much. I just want to do it. So then we got calls left and right. We got calls all over the place. We were playing all over the place. And not only that, but guess what happened? People started buying the recorded stuff we had done. So we had this kind of eye-opening experience. And here's the phrase that came out of it. Because when you are expecting to receive something, you're often disappointed because that thing you're expecting to receive doesn't come in the mail. Maybe there's no check associated with what you did. But when you're expecting to receive, you're quite often left saying, oh, man, it didn't come. But when your joy comes from giving, you're in control.
Absolutely.
When your joy comes from giving, you can never be disappointed because you're the one controlling it.
Absolutely. And as I said in my book, I said the less I care about money, the more money I make. But again, it comes back from the fact that you're living for a higher purpose, for something that is bigger than yourself. And if we think about it for a second, we are all happiest when we're selflessly sacrificing for something, some bigger cause, some bigger idea that lifts us up and out of ourselves. People who live completely for self-indulgence, they usually end up depressed. or at least ennui, the old French word ennui, for that bored, empty, stale kind of feeling. It's the people that have something worth living for, a sense of higher purpose. And ironically, it seems like the more we sacrifice for that, the happier we get. Of course, parents and children is another example.
Is there always a trail, August? I didn't mean to cut you off, by the way. I'm sorry. Is it always traceable in reverse? In other words, if I find a Donald Trump, and maybe I'm talking about Donald Trump, I don't really know the man, other than that he's got this reputation for being wealthy. So let's take him or somebody who has lots of physical possessions. If we went backwards, would we see that they were selfless all the time, or do we have some people in this world that are absolutely selfish and still get there?
There's no question about it. There are people who have, there's people who have gotten wealthy by stealing from other people, literally.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a few bank robbers out there that have never gotten caught. So it's not necessarily that selfishness doesn't work for making money in certain instances. But I like to call the attention, as rather than to Trump, to somebody like Warren Buffett. And Warren Buffett, is the richest man in America today. And every year he, expounds from his pulpit at Berkshire Hathaway about values, about authenticity, about honesty and trust. I read his biography, for example, and in there she said that he doesn't attribute his success to Wharton Business School or to even his legendary mentor. What he attributes it to is the Dale Carnegie course he took when he was a kid. And then she goes on to say, which is apropos of our previous conversation about doing it rather than just hearing about it, she said the difference between him and most of us is he didn't put the book back on the shelf and say, that was a pretty cool book. He worked the system and worked the system. And he has an incredible reputation for honesty and integrity. And rather than it being a stumbling block to his success, it's become the key to his success. There is what's called the Buffett discount. The Buffett discount means that Warren Buffett can buy a company for, say, 10% less than it would go on the open market for, because the owners of that company would rather work for him because they know he's going to give them a square deal, always be up front with them, always say what he's going to do, and then do what he says.
Yeah.
And all those things end up becoming an incredible bonus. And the monks use this to build their brand. They don't call it a brand, but we could call it a brand. This honesty and quality of their products, the integrity, all this stuff is built into it, makes people feel incredibly special just to be able to buy their product.
I think that's absolutely right. Well, I love what you're saying. Business Secrets of the Trappist Monks is the title of this awesome book written by August Turak, who's on the phone up in Raleigh, North Carolina. The book he wanted me to mention, the publishing company, is published by Columbia Business School Publishing. The subtitle, One CEO's Quest for Meaning and Authenticity. I've been watching Anthony Bourdain's videos lately. Do you know who he is?
No, I do not.
Okay, he's this guy on the Travel Channel who is a former chef, and he goes to different places and eats different food, and he's kind of a real city guy. He's from New York, and he's got that real rough edge to him. Okay, so I'm watching this one, and he's talking about the best places to eat in New York City if you're on a layover and you're just going to be there a little while. And he said there's this ice cream truck called Big Gay's, by the way. I don't know if there's a connection with it. Anyway, it's called Big Gay's Ice Cream. He says it's the best ice cream truck in the city. The problem is, how do you know where an ice cream truck is going to be, especially in the big city? Well, he uses Twitter. Apparently, there's this app where you can find out where the ice cream truck is. And to get to my point, he takes the subway, gets to the ice cream truck. There's at least a dozen people waiting in line to get ice cream from this guy. He finally gets to the window, orders a $3 ice cream cone, and then explains why this is so popular. Because the guy who charges $3 for an ice cream cone that may have cost him maybe 50 cents to make.
Yeah.
I don't know, 50 or 60 cents. The guy gives you every bit of that $3 worth.
Yeah.
He does, he puts more ice cream in the cone. He does more, caramel and all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And I guess it's just completely in line with what you're saying. He's giving more than most people would get for that $3.
Absolutely, and this is I think something that adds the chops to Business Secrets of the Trappist Monks. What I do, there's actually a parallel story, as you mentioned. There's a subtitle, One CEO's Quest, and what runs parallel is I'm telling you about the monks. I'm introducing you to individual monks. I'm telling you stories about the monastery and things that I've experienced there. But there's also the other story, which is how I built two software companies from $2,000 initial investment. That's all the money me and my three partners put into the company.
Wow.
And we built it over the next 7 years. We sold it to an Israeli company. That Israeli company sold the combined companies a few years later for $150 million in cash. And
Wow.
I document step by step, how did I take these exact same principles that I'm talking about and apply them, in this case, to two high technology businesses. And this is not motherhood and fluff. This is not some disaffected left-wing academic who hates corporations and profit and is trying to come up with a pie-in-the-sky solution. No, this is as I say in Business Secrets of the Trappist Monks, this isn't pie in the sky. This is damn good business.
But I like the ice cream story mixed in with the big business story, because this guy who sells ice cream cones for $3 a pop, he's not living probably in luxury, but he's probably happy. There was a story, and I bring this up now and then, a lady who worked on Wall Street, and when September 11th, 2001 happened, she decided she was getting out of that. She hated it, but she had a huge income. I don't remember what it was. We had her as a guest. She moved to New Smyrna Beach here in Florida, now sells T-shirts that she paints. She hand paints them. She makes unbelievably less what she used to make. It was probably a six-figure income before. Now it's probably maybe $35,000, maybe not even that. But the point is that she was telling us that she is absolutely happy. She does T-shirts. She sells them for a fair price. She lives on the beach. She's done. She doesn't need anything else.
Absolutely. I'm very, very thrilled to say that, when I go on Amazon now for my book, I see a lot of wonderful reviews. The book has been extremely well reviewed. But what the reviews that I like the best are the people who say, this isn't really, at least for me, a book about business. It's a book about life.
There you go.
It's a book about how to live your life. It has every bit as much relevance to your personal life as it does to your professional or your business life. And I love seeing comments like that.
And in fact, Michael, you quote Michael Keaton on the inside flap. It says, he says, I truly believe this book will improve not only your business, but your life.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Yeah. Well,
exactly.
And I think that's what God wanted for us. I really do. I think the whole point of this whole thing called life is to... I do have one question I want to throw in there, since I brought up the God thing, and I know we've almost out of time. Do you have to run, or can I ask another question?
No, you can ask away.
Okay. When we believe that it's faith that does things, do you think that worrying sabotages faith?
Well, yes, at a certain point it certainly does. I'm a firm believer in that old spiritual adage, work as if it all depends on you and pray as if it all depends on God.
Mm.
I like that.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's awesome. Okay.
So they have to go together. You can't just use God like a lucky rabbit's foot and be a lousy businessman and expect to be successful either.
How come the deep interviews go so quick, Robin? Is the clock quicker or something like that? Look at okay. I have a copy of the book. It's really an awesome book. It's called Business Secrets of the Trappist Monks. If you were paying attention, you know that this is more than just a business book, as August Turak said. Wow, look at the phone ringing. They know what I'm going to do. I'm going to give this copy away. So let me take one of these calls and give it away, and then August will tell us how we can go buy one. Good morning. You've got the book. Who's this?
Ken.
Ken, do you know where we are?
Yes, I do.
We're in the Paddock Mall now, okay?
Okay.
Robin will put your name. What's the first initial of your last name?
Yeah, my last name's Smith.
Smith, okay. Okay, Ken, it'll be waiting for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Wow, you got the phones ringing with that one, August. I bet it sells as much as... If that was any indication, you couldn't see the computer screen.
Well, I just found out we've already sold out the first printing, so that's a good sign.
Well, good for you. Okay, so let's see. Let's start with websites. Do you have a website?
Yes, my website is August Turak. That's T as in Tom, URAK at .com, augustturak.com.
Okay.
You can also follow me on Forbes.com. I'm a leadership contributor at Forbes.com.
Okay. Does your brother still live in Ocala?
No, he does not. But his daughter still, my niece still lives there, and his son is now working as a lawyer in New York City.
Wow.
That's excellent.
I mentioned earlier, I said, Ocala boy makes good in the big city.
Yeah, man.
My
That's
brother
right.
used to work for E1.
Wow. So everybody listening knows exactly what you're talking about. August, what a nice, great conversation. Loved having you on the air with us. Kind of wish we could have booked you for a full hour, but sometimes short and sweet is better. They go quick when they're good. Thank you.
Have me back sometime. I'd love to.
We'll definitely have you back, August.
Thank you. By the way, I've been to Ocala and I loved it.
Oh, nice.
And now you've spoken in Ocala, and we loved it. All right. We will take a little break, and we'll be right back.
The difference at Ocala Eye is evident in everything we do for you. It shows in our commitment to offer you the latest treatments for people suffering from dry eye syndrome. Ocala Eye wants to invite you for a consultation and see if you're a candidate for dry eye treatment. And if you are, we'll give you $100 off in August. There's 3 ways to receive $100 off your dry eye treatment. 1, just say the words, Ocala Eye looks out for me. 2, bring in one of our August newspaper ads. Or 3, print off a coupon from our website at ocalaeye.com. It's that simple. Say the phrase, bring in an ad, or print off a coupon from our website and get $100 off a LipiFlow dry eye treatment. Call Ocala Eye today for a dry eye evaluation at 888-202-7559 and see why more people are saying, Ocala Eye looks out for me. Conveniently located in Ocala and the Villages.
Legally Yours, brought to you by Fuller & Fuller Attorneys at Law. On the air every Wednesday morning at 10:30 a.m. with John Fuller, a board-certified civil trial lawyer for over 25 years. John welcomes your questions, from business to complex family matters to legal disputes. So tune in every Wednesday morning at 10:30 a.m. for Legally Yours with John Fuller, right here on WOCA 1370 a.m. and 96.3 FM, The Source.
Gene Powell Pasture Mowing. Our tractor services include bush hog, disking, front end loader, box blade, and stump grinding. We also have zero-turn mowers for the smaller paddocks, aisleways, fence rows, and lawn care. Fence row spraying is also available for weed control. We are licensed and insured. Gene Powell Pasture Mowing, 352-629-2440, or online at powellgene, Gene, at yahoo.com. Gene Powell Pasture Mowing.
Habitat for Humanity of Marion County is a ministry dedicated to improving lives by providing affordable and decent housing. Help them help others by visiting the Habitat for Humanity Ocala home store on Northwest 27th Avenue. To schedule a donation, give them a call and they'll come and pick it up. For more information, visit habitatocala.org. Habitat for Humanity of Marion County, building homes, building hope, building community.
What you may have missed on the John Tesh Radio Show.
The less we say at work, the more we enable others to define our role at the company. That could kill your chances of ever getting a promotion or raise. Even if you never touch a salt shaker, the majority of the sodium in our diet comes from packaged and processed foods. The worst culprit? Bread and rolls. Music engages one of the few parts of the brain that stays active once dementia sets in. And familiar music can help people with dementia feel more at home.
On the John Tesh Radio Show. Don't miss this stuff.
You've got a garden and we've got a show for you called You've Got a Garden with your host, Master Gardener Carol Ann Baldwin. Carol Ann answers your questions about your flowers, your veggies, your grass, your trees, even questions about your bugs. And she's only on WOCA, so don't miss Carol Ann Baldwin and You've Got a Garden each Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. right here on WOCA The Source.
Howdy, folks. RL here to invite you to Dairy Queen for a great new meal. Dairy Queen's now serving 3 different $5 meals. Hot dogs with chili, cheese, slaw, whatever. Quarter pound with cheese loaded up any way you like it. Solid filet chicken tenders. And each meal comes with fries, a drink, and a sundae from $5. You got that right. Nobody beats that deal. A great value.